inspiring the next generation of thoughtful techies in Kenya. So why did you think of starting up Waza? Like Andy talked about the Amani Art Club that we had, and we had this story at some point of these guys who came to Kenya and taught a bunch of kids to program, and then they followed them up 10 years later and found that these kids had grown into like successful programmers from just a bunch of street kids in Kenya. And it was it was so inspiring that we wondered, like, we come here every Saturday, we have fun, we do art, we do crafts, but what impact do we really have? What long-lasting impact? So that's what we thought about. What impact shall we have 10 years from now on these kids? What can we say that we really did? So we felt that we needed to do more than just go and have fun every Saturday, make arts and crafts. And that's how Waza came about. So we looked at the education system in Kenya. I don't know if any of you had kids maybe, or you passed through the system, so you know that the Kenyan education system does not emphasize on creative thinking or problem solving. That is a major gripe for us in the education system. So, we noticed that there was the Liwa Trust Student Innovation Expo funded by the Ministry of Science and Technology, but it focuses on high school students. And for us, by then, it's probably too late sometimes to inspire that creative thinking, because by the time you've been in high school, the education system has wiped out any creative thinking or innovativeness that you'd have had. So we targeted primary level kids, and so far it's really nice because those kids really think about the box, and we'll be doing some creative thinking, introduction to creative thinking and problem solving, and hopefully you guys will join in because we'll talk about it later. You have to be open and free. We'll be playing games. Basically, we'll regress and become children. Yeah, so I hope you guys will be open and ready for that. So the aims of Waza, we want to inspire Kenyan children to be more creative, to think critically, and to improve their communication skills. And you'll see in our curriculum that the focus that we have is on those three areas. Most of the games we play, most of the tasks we give them are revolve around these three areas. And these are some slides of the children in Amani. So these are some of the activities that we've been doing. This is artwork by the kids, although that was during the Amani phase, but the art phase. But it still comes in the issue of creative thinking. And these are some of the things that we've been doing with kids. That's us with the map of the world. So we wanted to expose them to different cultures, different ways of thinking, just show them that there's so much more than just Kawangware where you live. Because we realize that most of the kids are in this mind frame, this closed mind frames. You talk to them like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they'll be like, I want to be a matatu conductor, or I want to be a hustler. Yeah, so we realized that we needed to expose them. Even we have this project where we take them outside, we even want them to come to the iHub and just have that exposure that in a bigger world. So I think Angie will do the next part. Why iHub?
Yeah. So, yeah. We had a few folks that came in at the end, but I had explained the iHub. I don't know how familiar you are with the iHub at all. You're quite familiar. Do you know the iHub? You've heard about it, okay. So the iHub is basically a community space for the technology community, especially in Nairobi currently, and really is a meeting point, a point of convergence where programmers and graphic artists and researchers come together. And iHub also encourages a lot of community activities, and so especially this year, 2013, we've been asked to really make sure that we don't just stay within Bishop Magua, and that we actually go out, and that we, a lot of is happening here, but many people outside of Bishop Magua don't even know. And so basically making the technologists actually go out and talk to the people that they are building products for, and better understanding what the needs are on the ground. And so this is why, under the iHub umbrella, we've been able to sort of push to create this Waza Experience community initiative, if you will. And so the idea is, I think, twofold, basically to help the programmers and everyone concentrated up at the iHub to get out there and to talk to the folks on the ground. And also that allows the folks on the ground to benefit from talking to these techies and to these, I would say, sort of more modern thinking, forward thinking. Yeah, almost done. Sorry. What time is it? 5 minutes? Thanks. Sorry, Mel. Yeah, so to expose both communities to each other, basically. And so that's what it says here. And the idea also is, what we've noticed, we've had to, so most of the techies here are at least past university level. Many of them are young graduates. And we found that many of them have been so strictly taught or memorized, this is programming code, you need to apply it and build this, you need to build this game or whatever it is, so that they no longer actually can see the bigger picture. They've been taught to, get the skills and get it on a micro level, but they can't think of the whole solution, and they can't look at the problem and think it through in a very critical way. Often you find someone sitting down at a table, coming up with the problem and the solution, sitting at that same table. And so how can you come up with a creative solution if you haven't been out there and actually witnessed the problem? So the idea is that if we can start to get this next generation of techies, we're trying to help the current techies, but if we can try and even foster the next generation from the primary level and also the secondary level to begin to become better than their predecessors, and so that we're building on the shoulders of everyone else that's come before them. So that is really why it comes out of the iHub. So just briefly, there are two aspects of Waza, I would say. One is the curriculum itself, and this is what we're teaching the kids. How do you teach creative thinking? It's a really hard thing to teach. Creative thinking, communication requires a lot of practice, and then again, problem solving and thinking outside of the box is also quite difficult. So we need to really come up with some sort of base curriculum that can help to foster these skills. And so we have designed at least the first 6 months and created the learning objectives for it. And what we've used borrows heavily from design thinking principles. So these are things, I don't know if you've heard of Stanford's design school, but they have actually a number of principles around trying to foster creative thinking. And so we borrow on these, and I'll talk through the design thinking principles in the next slide. But the other emphasis, before I go into this, the other emphasis is also on making sure it's Kenyan. Our aim is not to create something that'll become Tanzanian and Ugandan and American and go beyond. We really want to focus on Kenya at this point and make sure that it's relevant to the kids. Because if we just copy-paste something from Stanford in California and bring it here, especially in a place like Kawangware where the kids don't have access to watercolors and markers and things at home, we want to make sure it's relevant to them. So using things that they can find in the streets, bottle caps, or just anything that they can have access to. The idea is to show them that they don't need to have money and buy all these things. They can actually be creative with what they have. So that's the other element to the curriculum. So you can see here, empathy, discovery. This is sort of the process that we're going to walk the kids through. And so empathy. Can you tell me what empathy is, James? You don't know. Does anyone know what empathy is?
It's, I'll just give it in context practically. Like, say you go into a situation and I will empathize for you or empathize with you. So I feel exactly what you're feeling.
Yeah, and that's different from sympathy, where you feel sorry or you don't put yourself in that person's situation, you just feel for them. But when you empathize with someone, you feel with them, right? So you can actually, I feel how James is feeling, and I can put myself in his shoes, really. And that's actually quite a difficult skill often, especially for adults more than kids, because after a while you are so aware of yourself, you forget about other people. So our idea is to teach kids, or to foster kids to continue to empathize, discover, and then from there moving into interpretation, identification of problems, being able to say, oh, there's an issue there, or being able to really describe what the issue is, the problem is. Ideation, this is brainstorming in short. Sorry, I don't know if you can see in the corner. Experimentation, so coming up with ideas then to begin to solve some of the problems that they've identified. And then prototyping and inventing, so this is often a fun part where you can actually begin to, if it requires a hard solution, actually like taking the paper and beginning to come up with a hard prototype. And then testing and collecting feedback. So this would be, I mean, it's similar to research, right? So having something and saying, Peggy, does this actually solve your problem? Would you use this? How much would you pay for this? Is this something that you like? Do you not like it? Why? And just developing those probing skills. And so using, and sorry, going back a little bit. And so the idea is not necessarily that at the end they'll have a winning prototype that they'll go and sell and they'll become millionaires. That's not the idea. The idea is just this process. And to learn the skills that come about through the process that they can then apply to other aspects of their life. So whether it's how to solve a math problem later on or something like that. The idea is to teach them that way of thinking. Yeah. So the second part of the curriculum, so I mentioned the curriculum for the kids, but there's also a curriculum for the trainers. And so the idea is we want to pilot a way of teaching others how to teach the curriculum. Because like I mentioned, this is really a pilot that we want to hopefully scale to other places. And to do so, we need other volunteers in other places to be able to teach these skills. And so that's why we are basically going to be training, not something like to memorize. We don't want you folks to go with a book and you read from the book to the kids. That's not the idea. We want to teach you guys to also be creative and to be able to pass that creativity on and to foster these kinds of skills. So as Peggy was saying, becoming a kid yourself in some ways. And so working on communication, creativity, design thinking. So the idea is you'll also be empowered with a few extra skills that perhaps you didn't have before this. And again, it's very informal. This is actually probably the most formal we've ever been in terms of having a computer and a PowerPoint. But we're very informal, and we like to just, especially be peer-to-peer with students as opposed to being the teachers, if that makes any sense. So we go and we hang out with them and we be their friends. And so we are going to be having a 2-day training. That's next Saturday and the Saturday following, the 27th and the 4th. Of course, we understand this is quite last minute, and so if you can't make it, that's fine. We just would like open communication, and we can schedule another time if you are interested. And so I've mentioned the pilot school. So Amani Primary is where we've been working since March 2011. The school administrators who we've been working with since that time are really very open to it, and they're very excited about this. And they always tell us, we're so happy you chose Amani to start. So that's a very important aspect. And then we've also been doing a number of classes already with them. So sort of a survey to better, not survey, but just, in fact I can show you the videos we did with them, but some fun games to sort of see where their levels are currently, because we want to be able to see, does this program, does this test curriculum actually work? So the idea is to get a better sense of the levels they're at now, and then in 2-3 months' time, to see how the curriculum we've structured really affects them. Feel free to interrupt me at any time if you guys have questions also. So our future vision. So this curriculum that I've mentioned, specific to Kenya, the idea is to have it be open and be free and be available for any organization who wants to use it anywhere around the country. Of course, that will require some people to teach the curriculum, so also the Train the Trainers manual will go together with that. And our vision is that eventually it will be adopted by different schools and taught by the local community members or people who are interested in passing these skills on to the kids. Our dream, these are our dreams, is to have also an annual event named the Invention Convention to have the kids begin to also interact with each other. And this will help also in the last one around building an alumni network. So the idea is to get these kids who have gone through this program to begin to feel like they're part of something bigger as well, and to interact with each other, and to begin to even share ideas and who knows, build lifelong relationships with each other. So how can you join? We do have, I think the emphasis right now is on the volunteering. So getting people to become willing to become part of the Waza volunteer program. And then also if you feel that you have enough experience that you can be an advisor, maybe you have years in the education system here, helping with the ongoing development of the curriculum. And so we have named it the Waza Corpies. If you have a better name, feel free. But rather than saying Waza Volunteers, we thought being part of a Waza Corp would be fun. And so we really need people who are committed and reliable. The fact that you guys are here is already a huge indicator to us, and we're very happy to have you with us today. And so what we're asking is that at least 2 consecutive Saturdays every other month. So we realize you folks are busy, you have things to do, but if we can have 2 Saturdays over a 6-month period, that will allow us to have a handover. So say Peggy and I go on Saturday number 1, and then Saturday number 2, Peggy continues, and then you join in. And then Saturday number 3, Peggy is free to go, and the 2 of you can go. So that ensures that there's some continuity over the 2 weeks as we continue. The other thing that's critical is for you to also be curious. We need adults who are like children. And we want you to be interested in learning with the kids as peers, as I mentioned before, not simply in a power trip and you want to go dictate to other people, you know, do this, do that. That is not what we want. So if you feel that that's the kind of person you are, there's the door. We also need you to be open and flexible, easygoing, because sometimes things don't go exactly as planned. The kids might come a bit late and your 2-hour class is shortened into 1 hour and 30 minutes. You need to be flexible. You need to figure out, okay, let's cut this thing out quickly. And so we need you to be thinking on your feet also. And finally, you hopefully have an interest in education, innovation, design thinking, or even Kenya's future at the very least, because the idea here is to empower the next generation, really. And I don't know if any of you are interested in being a Waza advisor, but if you are, or if you know someone who might be a good Waza advisor, we will need people who are knowledgeable, especially extensive experience with the Kenyan education system, passionate, again, consistent, someone who will respond to emails, and connected. So anyone who can link us with potential partners or other advisors or people within the sector. And so we do have an extra level, and so there are the volunteer corps, but also if you really feel driven, if you really have a lot of extra time, and you really want to take that extra step, we also have a Waza All-Star team. And so currently myself and Peggy and a few other individuals are part of that, and really this is to go that extra mile and to do everything. So a bit more time commitment, a bit just willing to do logistics, willing to do a number of other things, organizing the volunteers, helping in sort of every gap that needs to be filled. Yeah. And with that, I need to give the projector to my colleague. So that is pretty much it. And these are the trainings that I had mentioned. So that's the next 2 Saturdays. It'll be from 10 to 12 because that's normally what Waza is, 10 to 12 on Saturdays.